Blake, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Man, excellent. Hey, thanks for coming on here and doing this. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot of different projects, a lot of cool things in the works. So it means a lot that you come on here and take the time to kind of share your story, share what you do, share what you're about, and hopefully leave us all a little bit better than how we start this thing off. So,
man, if the Lord just used me, that's all I can do, man.
Yeah. Well, man, so kind of outsider looking in, you know, we've got to spend a lot of time here recently, starting to hang out more, which is awesome. But every time that we get to hang out together, it's cool. We had this thing where I leave feeling like I got some takeaways. Mm-hmm. And I know we have relationships with other people where that's not like the point, right? You don't hang out with somebody because you want something from them. But what's cool is when we get to hang out, we get to spend time together, is I leave feeling like, dang, man, Blake put me on some game. Like, I got some stuff that like I can go and use now, whether that's like my business or with fitness or with, you know, my faith and spirituality, whatever it is. I feel like I kind of got poured into a little bit, and I get a little like fired up, you know. And so that's what's really cool about hanging out with you. And so like for those listening in, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, give us like the snapshot story, like what you do, what you're about, and kind of like where you came from, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay. Well, mostly, I mean, I came from kind of, I guess you can say, the hood of Texarkana, kind of College Hill area, which is like right now, a couple years ago, it was like the number one bad area in Texarkana, Arkansas. But I didn't kind of see it like that growing up. I mean, mostly, I was able to walk down the streets at, you know, like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, you know, all the times a day. But yeah, man, and so kind of my story has kind of led me to where I am now, where I'm a pastor, a preacher. You can say I'm a preacher. I also do personal training. So that's kind of my business, my main gig right there. And so kind of just motivational speaking too, kind of starting to get into the content creating part of it, just to kind of reach more people, kind of use my platform for the glory of God, for him to use my talents. And so, man, I'm kind of just still trying to fill out where the Lord wants me to be. I know he wants me to be into fitness, obviously, and we'll get into that story. But he also definitely wants me to be preaching his word, spreading his word, explaining his word a lot, because a lot of people don't know. They know scripture, but they don't know the context and the meaning behind the scripture. Right. And so I feel like God is really just trying to push me into that area of helping people understand. That's kind of what Jesus did, was kind of a teacher. He would preach, you know, where he would be kind of spreading the good news, talking about how eternal life is through him. But then he would also teach, and he would show people kind of how the way to live through, you know, parables, through analogies, stuff like that. But yeah, so, you know, I'm kind of preaching. When I'm in the pulpit, I'm preaching. But whenever I'm posting on Facebook and Instagram, it's more of a teaching aspect, teaching people how to live the word of God, how to live the way God intended them to live.
Yeah. And so your history, your background, like your dad's a pastor, right? Or, you know, he's got a church, and like I know you get to share there and all that kind of stuff. But like, has it always kind of been like that? Have you always like been in the church, just like been about that life, like always walking with Jesus from day one? Or was there like a point in your life where you weren't really walking with the Lord? Like, what does that look like?
I would say for most of my life, I was a hypocrite Christian, what you would say. I would be somebody who would be spreading the word of God, but also be living a whole secular life. I was just talking to a guy yesterday at the park about it. But yeah, and I mean, like, you can go to my old Instagram. I got locked out of it years ago, so I had to make a new one. But my old one, you know, it says all glory be to God. And you can go on there and find, you know, good godly stuff. You know, I would take notes of all my dad's sermons and stuff like that, take notes away from it. I'll post it on Instagram, Facebook. But then, you know, you'll look at other pictures. I'm sitting here hitting a bong, you know. So I can't say that, like, I've always been pushing God's word out, but I haven't always been living that word. Right. And so, so that's the big thing. And so when I was growing up, I mean, it was a period of time where I didn't even really go to church because my mom and dad weren't together. The only times I would go to church would be Wednesdays on Bible study because my dad would pick me up from school.
Yeah.
And so we would go straight to the church from there. But Sundays I wasn't in church. Choir practice really didn't go to that. But that was only for like a period of probably about 3-4 years. And then when I got into my teenage years, that's when I started, my mom was starting to go back to church. We would go to church and go on church trips. And, I was in the choir. I was doing, we had like kind of a step team.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of, our program was called Boys to Man. And so, we had men in the church who would just teach us how to be godly men, who would teach us just how to be a man, period. And so, kind of was in that situation. And then, also going to Sunday school, church on Sundays, even doing revivals after church, going with our church to different churches around town and out of town as well. But yeah, so I mean, as far as when you ask, like, when it goes to church, have I always been on fire for the Lord? I would say no, because I was one of those situations where you're in the church, but you're not in the church.
Right.
You're participating in all this stuff. You're serving in all these different areas. But at the same time, behind closed doors, you're living a whole different lifestyle. Because I got introduced to marijuana, beer, liquor, pornography. I got introduced to all that when I was around like probably in the 5th grade, 6th grade. So probably like 11, 12, 10 years old, I was exposed to that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really put me in a, because, those years right there kind of form you.
Yes.
Form your beliefs. It kind of forms your
perception.
Yeah, perception of life. And so it made me look at women. Pornography made me look at women in a different way. Instead of a godly woman, I'm looking at her from a place of lust. From a marijuana perspective, I'm looking at it to feel me, where that was supposed to be God feeling me. Same with the liquor. And so my cousins were in the church with me, and they were the ones who introduced me to this stuff. They were older. My mom, she kind of, without my dad in the house, I really didn't have a disciplinary in the house, even though he would discipline me, like if it was school situations going on. So I was always good at school, and I was always good at the house. I never backtalked my mom, cussed her out or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I would say that I was rebellious behind closed doors. And so my cousins were like 6 years older than me. About 5 to 6 years older than me. And so, I was out with them. They're in high school. I'm in middle school, and I'm hanging out with them until like 12 o'clock at night. My mom thinking, oh, we're just out in the front yard, just chilling in the car.
Yeah.
But we're out there hotboxing the car, And so just stuff like that, man. I was I remember during spring break, my 9th grade year and 8th grade year, I was like one of those kids that was like big. I always been a bigger kid, always. And I always had facial hair too. When I was like in the 6th grade, 7th grade, I started growing a beard. And so I remember like my 8th grade, 9th grade, both 8th grade and 9th grade spring breaks, I spent time went with my cousin to University of Central Arkansas. That's where he was going at the time. And he was like, yeah, you can come up here, tell him, Mom, oh yeah, I'll take care of him, all that stuff. And so I went up there, man, we going to parties and college parties, and
what grade is this in?
This is like 8th and 9th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm up here drinking, going to Q-Dog parties, man, frat parties, and just smoking every day.
Yeah.
I remember like, man, I don't know if I had money going up there or not, but I know like it was during exam time or, midterms or whatever the case may be. And so my cousin, he's going off to class and I'm in his apartment And I'm up here eating like a cereal sandwich, man. I'm up here
making
living
stuff up.
Yeah, I'm up here really living the college life, man. In like the 7th, 8th grade, and 8th and 9th grade, and so yeah, man. So I would say, I was in the church, but wasn't of the church.
Yeah.
Definitely living a secular lifestyle.
Yeah. So, and then what was the moment for you? Like you're kind of going through this, and like. Where you kind of got like that conviction where you're like, man, I can't keep living like this. Like I got to start doing something different. Like, did it take a long time, or was it something like, in middle school and high school where you felt that conviction and wanted to change, but maybe you just felt the pressures of people around you? Like, what did that whole situation look like?
Man, I would say no. I would say I never really felt the conviction until college. High school, sports was kind of always like, I would say sports has kind of always been a God-sent thing for me.
Yeah.
Because in high school, when I was a freshman, I'm doing all these crazy things and got into a little trouble at school. I had a bad thing of recording fights. I think that's probably why I like
World star.
Yes, man. So I actually got like a famous video out that really went viral. At the time I didn't know about hashtagging your @ sign and stuff like that on there, and so it went viral, man. It got over 1 million views.
Wow.
A guy that used to host a BET show, he actually like shared it, and so like it went super viral, bro. It was like a dude in my neighborhood. My cousin actually, he was driving his SUV and he was getting into it with a guy, and so his mom was like, drive off. And he drives back, and he drives back up on the guy and like literally smashes into a pole, like going 60 miles per hour.
Gosh.
Like half his body was like out the window whenever he hit that pole. But yeah, but
yeah, that would have went viral, bro.
yeah. I kind of missed out on some money on that one, but anyway, but yeah. So I kind of 9th grade year, I kind of got into some trouble, recording a fight in the bathroom. There was numerous guys. They weren't even really fighting, but we used to play fight, shadow box, whatever you want to call it. And so that's what they were doing. But teachers thought we was truly fighting, and so we all got ISS or about face, in school suspension, kind of thing. Right. And so my daddy was the ISS teacher for the middle school. I was in high school at this time though when this happened, but he showed me kind of a way to kind of get out of it. And so I just he was just like, stay home, write a note that you were sick, kind of thing. Dang. And so I didn't have to go to in school suspension. But I say all that because, my football coach at the time, he was kind of, he looked at me in a different way. And so my 10th grade year comes around, and I still vividly remember, like, I got into it with a guy on the football field. He was punching me, doing stuff after the play, and so I punched him back, and I got caught, and we both got ejected from the game. And I was telling my coach, like, I hope you're not disappointed in me, by that. And he was like, oh man, I've been disappointed in you ever since your freshman year. He was basically talking about that incident that happened in the bathroom. And so from that point on, that football season, I didn't play really at all. My mom, parents, they always want to protect their loved ones and feel like, oh, you're doing my son wrong. And so she voiced her opinion to the head coach and to my position coach. And, that kind of made things worse. And so I ended up transferring out of Arkansas. I was at Arkansas High at the time. I transferred to another school in Texarkana, Texas. Well, Texarkana, Pleasant Grove. I transferred there. And at that point, that's kind of when I got away from different influences. At the same time, my cousins were getting older at this point, and so we hung out, but they weren't influencing my life heavily like they were when I was in middle school, junior high. And so kind of at this point, I'm around a whole group of different people with different mindsets. And so at this point in my life, I'm like, I feel like I don't know for sure, but I feel like I really stopped smoking weed, and it was really just because I wasn't around anybody that was doing it. And I wasn't at the point where I was like going out buying weed and stuff like that.
Right.
Mostly it was my cousin giving me the weed, and I would smoke it and stuff like that, or I'd buy from him. But yeah, and so at that point I stopped smoking weed. So I mean, but at the same time I'm still watching pornography. It was still like a ridiculous thing in my life.
Yeah.
And so, but sports really kind of changed a lot of stuff. It kind of just kept me out of trouble, kept me from doing bad things. Plus I was around guys who were like, they weren't really smoking weed like that neither. You know, we may go to parties and stuff like that, but you know, we weren't smoking weed. We weren't drinking like that. And so it was just good influence. And then from there, you know, some other good habits started to happen. Because at this time, it was my 11th grade year. I'm at Pleasant Grove, this new high school, and I'm like 305 pounds at this point.
Yeah, wow.
And I started in football. So I've always felt like I need to be big for football because I was always a big boy growing up, and I was good at the position that I was playing. And so I'm like, you know, I'm just going to put on weight. And so I got to 305 pounds. And I played football that year. And going into the off season, I was like, let me go play basketball. I never played basketball for the high school, never junior high. So like, let me go play basketball. And our coach, he would have us work out in the morning, like some CrossFit type stuff.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, we would have regular basketball practice, so up and down the court, stuff like that. And I've always been big into fitness. My dad introduced me to weights. He's been lifting at the same gym ever since the gym got established.
Wow, yeah.
And he got me and a couple of my friends in the gym when we were like in the 6th grade going to 7th grade. And so, you know, ever since then, I've kind of been in the weight room. But I wasn't necessarily doing a lot of cardio stuff, hard cardio. And so like I said, new habits kind of formed where I started, because my dad works out early in the morning, like 4 or 5 in the morning. So I'm used to waking up early to work out. But now I'm waking up early to do like a high intensity workout, and then coming back and almost running a marathon and basketball practice every day. And so I say all that to say, like, I went from 305 pounds to about 250 in a matter of like 3 months.
Wow, yeah.
And then from there, I'm like, oh, snap. I just hopped on the scale one day, I was 250. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, well, shoot, let me see how much weight I can really lose. Because I've always wanted to play running back coming out, growing up and stuff like that. And so I'm like, let me see how much weight I can really lose. And so started just kind of just learning from my dad. Google was kind of a thing at the time. It was a big thing, but it's not like how it is now where it's just a snap of the finger and boom, you get all the information at your fingertips. YouTube was the same way. It's not like my version of like learning something from YouTube was watching E.T. Thomas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Motivational speaking and stuff. And so, so that happened. And so I was like, let me see how much weight I really can lose. And so I ended up getting about from, I would say December, November to about probably about June of that span. In between that span, I got down to about 200, 205, 210, somewhere in that range, 200 to 210. And so, you know, everything kind of just radically changed for me at that point. Still living a sinful lifestyle. Conviction wasn't getting on me, but just kind of having that new confidence about myself. Football went good. Our team sucked my senior year, but I mean, just as far as from my performance standpoint, it was good. Not living up to my expectations, but it was a good enough year. And then whenever you talk about the conviction standpoint, like that really kind of, like I was saying, that kind of hit me in college. But from that point on, though, like me losing that weight kind of just showed me new disciplines, waking up early, working out, you know, just being very dedicated, being obsessed about something, because I was being obsessed about
the wrong things.
Yeah. And so when I was at Arkansas High, I was being obsessed about the wrong things. And then when I got to Pleasant Grove, I started being obsessed with the right things, even though I was still watching pornography and stuff like that, I started cutting other stuff out that I was doing. And so, yeah, so I ended up getting obsessed about just losing weight and just kind of just really just dove into it. I mean, I did some good practices, you know, where I'm drinking enough water, I'm eating, didn't really know nothing about protein, macros, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, I'm eating healthier. Then I had some bad practices where I'm eating a meal. Like I'll go to a Chinese buffet and I'll smash it, and then I'll get home and, you know, make myself throw up, you know, kind of thing, you know. And so, you know, I was obsessed with trying to lose weight, trying to find ways to lose weight, whether it was good or bad. But, you know, just that obsession, that consistency, because even during that summertime leading up to my senior year, I would go work out with my dad in the morning. Then I would go to the field and run with 2 parachutes and do footwork drills with the ladder. You know, that was a day in, day out, every single day, no matter what kind of thing. And so it really just kind of just showed me consistency, and my weight, my body, the body transformation, everything was just a result of that consistency. But I would say, like, just having sex with women, because I lost my virginity when I was like 13.
Yeah.
In the 9th grade, and so just the sex with women, just living just a sinful lifestyle, being a hypocrite, because I started back smoking weed probably like my freshman year. Well, really, at the end of my senior year, I got involved with this girl. She was kind of like she was a stoner, you would say. And so, you know, I'm smoking weed with her my freshman year of college. She was still in high school. She was a senior. So, you know, we're smoking. I'll come home on the weekends from Tyler. I was going to school in Tyler. And, you know, I'll come home on the weekends. We'll smoke, have sex, smoke, have sex. And I was kind of in this cycle of, like, you know, being with a girl for about like 6 to 8 months, and then find another girl.
Yeah.
And cheat on her, and then get into a situation where both girls know about each other, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna leave the old girl for the new girl. And it kind of was like a cycle like that all through to probably about my sophomore, junior year of college, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I was just having sex, just living secularly, still posting, you know, godly things, you know.
It's crazy.
But still at the same time, I'm living very secularly. And then the conviction really caught up to me when it was just kind of me by myself. Like, I was single. I just tore my ACL and my MCL in college. So football was over with for me, from a collegiate standpoint. You know, I'm kind of, like I said, like isolated. When I was in Tyler, I just did a whole bunch of sexual acts that just really just laid heavy on me. Mm-hmm. And all the past I did too, you know, all the past sexual sins I've done from like I said, 13 all the way up until that point kind of just hit me all at once. And it's like everywhere I go, like I just keep lusting, mm-hmm. And it's like I can't even really just think, period, you know, without, you know, walking, especially on a college campus, you know, you're walking around, you're going to parties and stuff like that, you're walking around, you're just seeing women after woman after woman after woman after woman, and it's just lusting, you know. And so, and that's why I was saying, like, a long time ago, like, the stuff that I was exposed to around 5th and 6th grade really messed my perspective up when I got older. And I mean, it just got to the point, bro, like, I really kind of got suicidal. You know, I was just giving my testimony a couple weeks ago in one of these marriage classes that me and my wife did. And just kind of saying, like, man, if I thank God that I didn't know that, like, pills can kill you, because I definitely would have probably OD'd on pills. Wow. Just to end it all, just to kind of just give peace in my mind. And I remember like being in, because I had transferred from Tyler to University of Central Arkansas, so I'm in Conway at this point, and I'm just sitting in the McDonald's parking lot just crying, man, just crying out to God and crying physical tears, spiritual tears. I'm just crying, man. Just like, God, just give me peace. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm at a point where, like I said, I tore my ACL and MCL. College football was over with me. That was my whole identity kind of thing. Growing up was football. Everybody, oh man, you can do this. You can go to the league. All this stuff. And so, that was my identity, and that's what kind of happens to us when we have our identity wrapped up in something that is not of Christ.
Yeah.
Like I said, sports, I was definitely a God sent thing, but when you start getting wrapped up into the God sent, what God has given you, and you start putting that as your idol, you start putting that as your identity, once that's ripped away from you, now you're kind of lost. You don't know who you are, kind of thing. You're trying to figure out who you are again, because that part that was you, that you thought was you, is gone now. And so.
Yeah, that's good. I piggybacking off that, man, there was something that hit me yesterday that is just something that I've been thinking of, is like, and this is, Dr. Miles Monroe, he says that God's design for your life is to be successful. He gives you hopes and dreams and ambitions. He wants to use you through those things to maybe reach certain people or to further his kingdom or whatever it may be. However, the trick is we don't want success to be our God rather than God be what brings us success. So we have to always have those things in the right perspective, or else we lose it. And then it's like you said, your foundation kind of crumbles whenever something like, you get injured, and it's like you kind of then like, what do we do now? Like, where do we go? So
yeah, that was good. That's really kind of, that was head on like what it was, man. A lot of my success in life and came from football and came from sports, and so all that is gone now. And so it really just brought me to a point where I was kind of like the lady, the woman in the Bible who just needed to touch Jesus's cloak.
Yeah.
She just had a determination, if I could just touch him, I can be healed. And that's kind of the point where I was at. I remember going to a New Year's Eve or New Year's Day church service, and the pastor just being like, this is a point of new beginnings. God is going to do something new in you, and just kind of just this burning of new beginnings. You're forgiven for the things you've done. And that's kind of what it was, is that I feel like I've done things that God couldn't forgive me for, because I've done it so much.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I was. And so I ended up like leaving that service fulfilled, feeling like I've been spiritually like renewed. And man, it kind of just brought me on fire for the Lord. And then fast forward from that January to August, I kind of was still doing secular things, but I was feeling conviction about it. And I was feeling like I need to do better, not necessarily for myself, but for God. And it ended up bringing me to getting rebaptized in the month of August. And from there, I was kind of just like, I'm gonna live for God. Cause I would just do like petty stuff, man. Like, my friends would give me like, say, hey man, I'm giving you $5 for gas, and in my head, I would take that $5 and, buy weed or something with it, what I'm saying? And so just doing some just like silly stuff, man. And, after I rededicated my life to Christ and got rebaptized, I was still smoking, but like when it came to sexual things, like I stopped doing all that stuff, stopped having sex with all women and stuff like that, and kind of was just living for the Lord. I was still seeking women, but not from a perspective of like just trying to have sex and just like move on to the next one. It was more of like trying to like really build something.
Right.
But yeah, and so all that conviction really just came on at that time, and just led me to wanting to live a godly life. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us, is that God just breaks us down to a point where we have nothing but to rely on him. And it's when you've heard people talk about, oh man, you just gotta, at that bottom moment, you just gotta pray out to God, you just gotta seek him. And I feel like that's what happens to a lot of us, especially people who don't even know God, is that life just beats them down to the point where they're just like, man, I'm just gonna try him.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try him. And then then something happens supernaturally in their life where they get a sense of peace. They find a sense of peace, and they're like, man, whoa, this is like what really God is about. and then that's when they, become a believer, man. And so that's kind of what happened to me from that point on. So I mean, like I said, man, that conviction was heavy at that time.
It's crazy, man. There's so much in your story to unpack. But one of the biggest things that stuck out to me that I think people can take home today is like the importance, like the critical importance of your environment, of the people that you surround yourself with. I mean, we've even talked about this quote, me and you together. I think it was Jim Rohn who said, you're the sum total of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And me and Haley, we were talking about this the other day. It's like, okay, who are our 5? Like, who are we around the most? Like, what married couples are we spending the most time with? What other influences are around us that are like being pulled or poured into us, and like, are we taking proactive action on who we spend our time with, so that we can like basically essentially like dictate where we want our future to go? If we want to have like a good, bright, beautiful future, that can be dictated on who you're spending your time with. And what was cool about you is like you were almost like forced out of this environment, and sometimes we have to wonder, was this a little bit of God's hand, how he took kind of a bad situation and used something good out of it to kind of draw you into a new place to where there could be new hope found within you, because it was here that you got this love and this compassion for sports. And because the other thing that like your story that I kind of hear is like this recurring element of hope. It's like whenever you lost that first 50 pounds, you stepped on the scale, you're like, whoa, hold on a second here. And it was like you kind of clung to that, and you're like, well, I'm going to move forward with that. And then we also saw that with like your redemptive story. It's like, this place that it was like it broke you down, you're injured. It's like, what do I do with my future? But actually it was like an opportunity of hope for you. And so, those are 2 things that I really feel like people have to find some sort of element of hope, like that New Year's service that you went to where you got fulfilled. You got like this renewed sense of spirit, like, okay, like I can do this. My past is forgiven, and it gave you this encouragement. Like, people have to get that sometimes in order to get the wheels going, because most times people like, we want to change, but we don't really know how to, and we don't have that like startup energy. We don't have like that thing to like set us on fire. And so sometimes, like you said, you get around somebody who's sharing the right message. You find sometimes it is maybe one of ET's videos that just like turns you and starts to give you a little bit more hope to like start driving. And I think I've shared my story with you that I just didn't know what to do with my life. And like I had like goals and dreams, but man, I really didn't know how to go about achieving them, and I had all of these other influences. My parents were wanting me to do this, society's telling me to do that, and I'm like, what do I do? And I remember, going back to the whole women thing, like I also like, I was having like a terrible luck with women. Like, girls didn't want to be around me. I didn't have any confidence around them, and I was like, man, I got to do something. And so like I got on online, and I was like looking through like Reddit threads. I was like how do I become more attractive to women? And funny enough, it led me to one of ET's videos. And he's like in front of this class, and he's talking about taking responsibility, and it's your job to better yourself, and like you got to basically get rid of this fixed mindset that you have, develop and cultivate a growth mindset to where you can change your life for the better. And it like started to like change the way I was like, wow, I can change me. Like I can change the way I think. I can change what I do. I can change like my appearance. And it started that character development side of me where I was like, man, I really do want to like become more, become better, do better. And it basically became this like chain reaction, very much like yours, where it started instilling all of these positive habits. You're going to bed early so that you can get up for practice, and eating the healthy food and all of this different stuff. And so, man, those are crazy things that people can take. And also, I want you to riff on this a little bit more, is the critical part of how you can be influenced and programmed even at such a young age. And like, how do you break out of that? Like, was that like a complete God thing, or was it also like a sanctification type process where you had to work yourself out of this a little bit?
Man, I was just actually talking to somebody the other day about this, because I don't really believe in like the zodiac sign thing. I feel like it almost dictates who you are supposed to be. You know, Leo is hard headed and arrogant, and you know all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I mean, we all kind of have those type of personality traits. You know, all of us have times where we're arrogant. All of us have times where we're hard headed. You know, and so I don't really like click with the zodiac signs. So one of my friends, he's not a believer, and he was kind of just like, you know, oh, the Bible talks about, you know, star alignments. I said, yeah, it does. Not from a perspective of like zodiac signs though.
Yeah.
You know, not in that way. And you know, he's kind of like, you know, man, you got to look at it like, you know, and he was trying to basically make his points about why zodiac signs are true and all this stuff. And I'm just kind of like, man, I asked him a question. I was like, so the way that you were raised has nothing to do with how you operate once you get older? And he's just like, oh, that's different though. You know, that's different. That's more like home training. I'm like, no, not necessarily. Like between the times that you're a newborn to 7 years old, that's when you're like mostly getting developed, and most of your beliefs are getting instilled, and who you are is getting instilled, and like that can almost, in that time, you can become you're such a sponge. You can become an introvert or an extrovert. You know, depending on how your parents raised you, depending on the traumas you face, depending on the situations you're placed in at that age. You know. And so, like for me, you like I said, you know, I was in that period where, you know, I'm getting, and then also like, you know, if you're not fully loved in your house, you know, if you don't feel like you belonged in your home, then that can make you, when you get older, try to seek approval from other groups and other people. And that's how you can definitely get easily influenced, because you're just willing to do whatever to feel belonged.
Right.
And so, you know, for me, I was always loved by my mom. She's always like, you can do whatever you want to, you know, you can be whoever you want to be, you know, encouraging me that I could, you know, because I used to want to be an actor, comedian, you know, all that kind of stuff. And she was like, you can do it, you know. And so she was always, you know, loving on me in that way and just sacrificing so I can have good things in my life. And so I always felt loved by her, but I don't know if it maybe been not having a full relationship with my dad, because he wasn't in the house, or because of my relationship with my brother, because he was like, you know, like doing his own thing. You know, he was addicted to drugs, he was stealing and stuff like that. He had addiction with stealing and lying about it and stuff. So, you know, I don't know if it's that, you know, but it would seem like that my mom wasn't enough acceptance for me. And so I would go out, you know, that's how my cousins, you know, highly influenced me. And not saying they put a gun in my head and like, hey, you need to do this, you know, but just how they viewed women. You know, I thought they were cool, you know, I thought they were, you know, who I wanted to be like. And so, you know, I'm taking their beliefs on how they view women and, you know, and putting that into myself, and taking how they view sports and putting into myself, taking how they view, you know, just how they view the world. And I kind of took all that in. And so, you know, my dad was probably the most positive role model I had in my life at that time, but because I wasn't spending as much time with him like that as I was my cousins programming is what I ended up taking on versus what my dad's programming was, where it's kind of more, you know, being rooted in Christ, being rooted in God, doing the things for God, not for yourself, you know, all those kind of things. And so I would say, you know, their programming had to be broke just through part of sanctification. I would say sanctification was definitely a big part of it. And just God just putting me in circumstances and situations to where I just had to view things in a different perspective, you know, where kind of like, you know, I had, like, for one thing, you know, kind of what changed my perspective on women was kind of just actually having like a good woman in my life. I remember being in college and I was at UCA, and I had, like I said, I was kind of in that system where I'll get with a girl, cheat on her, you know, all this stuff. And so I was with a girl, and, you know, very godly girl, you know, we would watch debates between Muslims and Christians, and, you know, and just talking about theology and stuff like that. And, you know, and yeah, we were having sex and stuff like that. But, you know, she was just a godly woman, godly girl, and so I'm still trying to, I'm talking to her, and I'm still messaging this girl back in Texarkana, and she finds out about it, and she just like, I don't want nothing to do with you, didn't take my calls, none of that. And so I'm like, dang, like I really need to do better about treating women differently. And so the next relationship I got in, I actually treated her like a queen, and that it didn't work out at time. But yeah, so that's just an instance of where God has like put me in situations that forced me to change my perspective on how I viewed the world. And so to answer your question on that,
and it's like a gradual process where you kind of like had to learn, like you talking about this one girl where you wanted to treat her like a queen, and like she wasn't necessarily for you, she wasn't necessarily the one, but it was giving you that opportunity to learn and grow and develop in yourself for the one,
real talk, man. I didn't think about it like that. You can put me on something.
Man, so let's talk about this crazy weight loss journey that you kind of went through, and now this is like kind of the core component of like how you're helping people with your training and stuff like that. Like, you share whatever you want, but some of the things that people who are listening to this, maybe they can take away. Maybe they've got 150 pounds that they were really wanting to get off, but like they don't know what to do. Like they feel like maybe they've tried everything, or they're looking for answers. There's all these different things online. Like, what would you tell somebody in that position?
Man, if I could tell anybody just two things, it would be eat your protein and get your steps in.
Yeah.
Like if that's two things that I can tell anybody, if I can tell three things, it would be do some type of weightlifting where it challenges you and you enjoy it. Because if you can enjoy it, you can sustain it. And so like, don't try to go out and kill yourself, especially if you're somebody who used to be in the gym, used to be a gym rat, and then you kind of, something happened, you got relocated to a new job, you went through the pregnancy kind of stage where you have a dad bod, or you're a mother, just gave birth to a baby and it's been some years since you've been in the gym, or you had surgery, whatever the case may be. The biggest thing is just to make sure that you don't try to burn yourself out, because I've seen a lot of people burn themselves out like quickly. They'll go heavy, they'll go stupid in the gym on the first day and then be sore as heck day 3 and like, it's a wrap, I ain't got it no more, and so they stop, or stuff like that. And so I would say, just find a workout program that works for you, that's enjoyable for you, and that you can sustain long enough to where you actually start liking to come to the gym, and it's a habit to come to the gym. And then make sure you actually put in the nutrients in your body to basically
refuel, replenish,
recover, be able to actually sustain hunger, because when you start working out more, you actually start getting a little bit hungry. In some cases you don't get as hungry as you were when you were just eating whatever. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people think, when I go on the fitness journey, I'm gonna have to cut out a lot of stuff that I'm eating, and which is the case, but I mean, there's always healthier ways to make something that you like already. There's like a healthier way to make lasagna. There's a healthier way to eat a burger. There's a healthier way to make fries. I just made some oven baked fries this morning, and man, it tasted just like if I fried them. You know?
Right.
And so just small changes like that. Like, people think you have to radically change. You don't have to radically change. But yeah, make sure you're getting your protein. Make sure you find something that's a workout program a workout routine that's sustainable for you to do, long haul that you enjoy. And then third is just making sure you get your steps. Steps have been shown, like, just low impact cardio has been shown to burn fat better than high intensity training.
Right.
Where high intensity training is more pointed towards burning carbs, whereas low intensity, low impact training, just walking, stuff like that, is more geared towards burning fat. And so, I would just tell somebody, just Just try to get 7,000 steps a day, eat your protein, find a workout routine that you love doing like 3 times a week.
Yeah, that's good, especially for, like you say, you got somebody come to see you 3, maybe 5 times a week, whatever it is, and they're spending an hour with you in the gym. You're pushing their muscles, they're getting sore, they're going through that whole process, and then, you've got to, they need to go get their steps in too. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about something like just going for a walk is it doesn't really require a whole lot of energy. It's not like you got to go do a bunch of sprints or bleachers or, any high intensity CrossFit style stuff. Yeah. You're just like, go for a walk, listen to a podcast, make some of those phone calls that you need to, make that time useful, spend some time in prayer, gratitude, something like that where you can use that time. And then, like you said, you are going to actually be able to make better progress that way because of those benefits that you mentioned. I don't know if you remember this. I know whenever you first got started, because I was in the same position even after, because I know you've been doing this for a long time. But whenever I got started, like, on this whole fitness thing, like, it was like chicken, rice, and broccoli. Like that was kind of the thing, And now it's crazy because we have all of these other tools available to us. Like when I first got started, like I didn't have an air fryer, I didn't have like all of these like crazy YouTube people who have like all of the meal prep stuff laid out for you. These like there's some people who I follow on Instagram, and they are making some of the best looking food, and it's all like low calorie ingredients, all still healthy and good for you, high protein, like. They're packing in like 60 to 80 grams of protein in like some, chicken Alfredo pasta. I'm like, sign me up. You know what I mean? It's like, so you can, in a sense, have your cake and eat it too. You just have to you got to learn how to do it the right way. You got to learn like what those ingredients are, how to do it. And then like the big thing that you've been kind of driving home is that consistency. Like, don't like do it for a month and think like, well, I'm not seeing anything yet. It's a wrap. It's like, no, it's got to be 3, 6. It's got to be a year. And really, ultimately, it needs to be a lifelong thing. I was sharing this idea with somebody yesterday. You remember Zig Ziglar?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He had this concept. I know you've heard this, where he talks about priming the pump. Do you remember this? So like they had these. All right.
Put me on.
So they had these old water pumps, right? And it's got like the lever, it's like drilled all the way into the ground, like where the well is, right? And you have to like manually start like pumping this well, just like putting all this effort and energy, and it's just like, you're starting to sweat, your muscles are burning, you're just having to pump. But eventually water starts to drip out, right? And then you got to keep the gas on, you got to keep pumping, and then finally you start to get some flow. And then you keep pumping, and now you've got a steady stream of water coming through. Once you get that steady stream going, well, you can ease off of it. Now you can just like, give it a few pumps, let that water keep going. It doesn't require as much effort. You can just kind of coast. And that's exactly how not just fitness but success in life is. It's like at first it requires a lot of energy. At those first couple of weeks, first couple of months, in business years, couple of years, you've really got to have that hand down. You've got to be pumping. You've got to be putting all in, sweat on the brow, everything, putting in all this work. But once that water starts to flow, you don't want to stop pumping, because then the water's going to stop. It's going to slowly start, kind of drying up or whatever, then dripping, and then it's done, right? And then you got to start all the way over. And that's what we see happen. We see people pump, crank. You start to get a few drops. Really, that's it? I quit. Okay, well, I'll start pumping. That whole cycle. But if you just like get that water flowing, then you can just kind of ease off that pump, just a few pumps. That's when it gets like fun, because you've gotten for the most part the results you want. And now you just got to keep your hand on the gas a little bit. You keep going to the gym. You're kind of maintaining. You're still eating healthy foods, but you can still enjoy a couple of nights out with your family. And that's when it's like you start to develop that lifestyle. You start to really cultivate that lifestyle that leads to lasting change, rather than well, I'm gonna try keto and hopefully it works out in 3 months, and then it's like 3 months later maybe they get some results. Okay, well, cool, time to dive back into cheeseburgers and everything else, and then it comes back on, and it's like, well, I know it worked last time, let me try that again. Like, let's do something that's sustainable. Let's do something that can like actually take you, which I don't know, keto, maybe it can be sustainable for people. For me, no. Like, I'm sorry. I train, like, I want my carbs, like.
It's a wrap, man. I would just kind of piggyback off what you're saying, man. I mean, it's just like people in general, like, if you can just learn to love the process.
Yeah.
Learn to love the process. And, you know, people say, trust the process, you know. Well, you can trust the process and still hate the process. You know, you actually got to love the process to a point where, like, you enjoy, like I said, you got to find something that's sustainable so that you can do it for the long haul, and that you actually start looking forward to doing it. Like my clients, they look forward to coming to work out because the program that they're doing is sustainable. It's not challenging, hard. It's challenging, but it's not challenging to the point where you're just like, oh my gosh, I actually hate this.
Yeah.
You know, it's challenging to where like, oh, I just did that. Yeah. You know, and it encourages you to want to keep going. And that's kind of what we need to do. Like, if and the same thing for me, I'm preaching to the choir here, but if we can learn how to love the process, like I'm starting to get back into content creating, start filming and stuff like that, and I already know going into it, I need to learn how to fall in love with the process fast. Because the faster you can learn to love the process, the better your chances are of succeeding in the long haul. Like if you can just want to just do the process and not expect any results at all, oh bro, you onto something, because you can do it for 10 years and then boom, you look up, now you're successful, and what you were just loving the process the whole time, but now, you know, it's just like basically success is on your side. I mean, that happens for everybody. You know, there's a guy named Alex Hermosa who says, you know, if you can do something for 10 years without expecting nothing in return, you'll be like in the 1%, the top 1% in that area. Yeah. You know, and so I mean, for me in fitness, like, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger or, you know, the guy who won Mr. Olympia, Chris Bumstead or whatever. You know, I'm not like that top 1%, you know, but I am in the 1% of like when it comes to like a healthy body composition, you know, and stuff like that, because majority of America is obese, you know, and overweight. And so that just me falling in love with the process of just working out, eating. Like I love to eat, like point blank period, but I don't love to eat so much to where I can start seeing my body have like negative changes. Yeah. You know, I love to give me a cheat meal in and then boom, hop back on my routine. You know, hop back where I'm at. Or in the same cases like you was talking about, making healthier alternatives, making a healthy chicken Alfredo with low fat cheese, low fat cream cheese, you know, low fat milk, you know, and protein veggie noodles, you know, with grilled chicken, which is already good in that instance. But yeah, just, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, just knowing those different things. Yeah, it's the biggest thing for people, I think, is you've got to switch your mindset from being outcome focused to process focused, which is exactly what you say. Because in regards to the content creation, as a content creator, obviously you want your stuff to be liked. Like that's why you're putting it out there. But and that's the reason, like, most people post. It's like, I post to, you know, one, I want to connect with, you know, the people who, my audience, my friends, whoever it is. But, like, I want them to like my stuff. I want them to like what I'm sharing. But when we come at it from the perspective that you're talking about, you can't worry about that anymore. I mean, like, yeah, you still got to tailor to your audience, but you can't be focused on, well, how many likes did this one get? How many views did this one hit? How many blah, 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 blah. Because then, when it doesn't start getting the views, which, if you're looking at the algorithm right now, specifically on Instagram, like, going to be very unhappy because it's just not, it's not happy with the lower, you know, accounts. You know, it's focused on those bigger accounts right now. But you still have to be consistent. One, you're getting the reps in, and two, like, it's part of the process, you know, and it's kind of the future that we're heading into. That, you know, if you want to run a business, if, you know, you want to develop an audience, if you want to help people, you've got to be a content creator to some degree, you know. And so, but switching that mindset from, well, man, I just can't wait to get my after photo so I can share it on Facebook. It's like that's going to be cool. That's going to be awesome and stuff. But let that be your 10-year moment where you look up and go, oh, man, let me just throw this out there. Then people are like, whoa, you know, going crazy for you, rather than being like, all right, so in 3 months, like, am I going to be able to share the post? Like, no, you got to switch from that. Like, just love the process of, all right, cool, today I'm going to get my walk in. I'm going to enjoy a great podcast while I'm doing it, you know, and then I'm going to go hit the gym. I can't wait for that post meal after. It's going to be great. You know, having your mind shifted on those things is going to create that change that you're talking about. Yeah, man, so, most definitely. Like for me, like, I really never even boasted I made a post probably my freshman year at college, like my before and after kind of thing. But then ever since then, like I haven't done one until recently, where I kind of, just kind of relaunched my personal training business. And so, like I said, man, just it's all about loving the process. I mean, like Mr. Beast, for an example, 10 years ago, nobody was watching him when he was making Minecraft videos, as a little kid.
Yeah.
But now everybody is like millions of people. He got over 1 billion views, with all of his YouTube channels and Instagram combined, but like we said, he loves the process of scripting, of writing out a script, like putting the shots together, doing in the editing, like all of that stuff. He's been loving that ever since he was making, Minecraft videos that was getting like 100 views, kind of thing.
That's a great example. Well, man, as we wrap this up, I got like one more question for you. I'd love for you to kind of riff off of this, but like if there was one thing that you could tell somebody who's listening on how to live what we call the high-powered life, what would that be? And so high-powered is just like you're kind of reaching the max potential in all areas of life, and you're driven, you're empowered by the Most High God, right? Yeah. So you're just kind of becoming the best version of yourself that God's created you to be. What's one thing that somebody could take away listening to this?
I would say just be consistent in your walk with God. Be consistent reading your Bible. Be consistent praying. Because when you're consistent in that area, the Bible naturally shows you how to be successful in all other areas of life. It tells you about working hard. It tells you how to work hard. It tells you about the different seasons so that you're not overworking yourself to try to be successful. You're not putting something as an idol before God. Like it just shows you how to live your life in a way that you can succeed, but also be used by God to bring his kingdom here on earth. And let him be known to other people. So I would just say being consistent and just be consistent in 3 things: praying, reading your Bible, and applying what you're reading from your word. Now, if you do those 3 things, I guarantee you, if you do it for the long haul and not expecting the results, just do it for the long haul because you just want to be obedient to God, you want a close relationship with God, everything else will be added onto you. It's just like the verse in the Bible.
Man, that's good. That's good. And especially, man, we're going to have to come back and do a part 2 to this, especially that applying what you read, because people will just kind of skim through something, read a story, but not know how to apply that. So I think we need to circle back one day and like actually help people know how to apply the things that they're reading. Awesome, man. Well, real quick before we finish, where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can you connect with others?
So mostly right now I'm on Facebook. You can just type in Blake Jordan. You can type in Blake Jordan Fitness Coach. Go follow my page there. Then also I would say you can reach me up on Instagram. It's all glory be to God. So all glory be to God.
Gotcha.
And so I had to make a whole new Instagram. Like I said earlier, I got locked out of mine. But yeah, so you can reach me on there or reach me on Facebook.
Yeah, and we'll drop a link to that in the show notes too, so y'all can kind of keep up with Blake and see all the cool stuff that he's got going. Well, man, thanks for coming on here. Awesome story.
Brother.
And dude, we'll have to do a follow-up, one to just like see what you're up to and see how you continue to progress and help others. And man, it's just cool watching the journey from the sidelines. So thanks for coming on, man. Cool.
Yeah.